Sea Monsters is a 2003 documentary in which Nigel Marven, a British naturalist and TV presenter, travels back in time and visits the 7 most deadly seas of all time. Of course, you can't actually travel back to the Jurassic seas, but he does present it in a way that it looks like a real documentary. This 3-part show is probably my favourite growing up. As I stated in my last video, the dinosaur documentaries from the late 90s to early 2000s were the kind of thing I loved. So anyway, I guess I should probably start covering the show. So... Nigel is seen walking across a beach before wading into the water. Once he gets deeper, he is suddenly attacked by a sea scorpion. It draws blood before he can escape, but he gets out of the water in time. They clean the wound before finding a dead trilobite and using it as bait to catch bigger monsters. He dives under the water and finds a few more sea scorpions before discovering a massive 9-meter orthocone, which is just completely unrealistic proportions, by the way, as the largest orthocone ever was just 5 meters long. Anyway, he gets out of the water and travels forward in time to... Nigel is yet again seen on a beach with a few Coelophysis scavenging nearby. Then he's on a boat showing off his abs when they spot a Nothosaurus swimming about. So he dives into the water, and when he finds the lizard, he grabs its head and swims about like a maniac. Anyway, the Nothosaurus swims off, and then a long-necked Tanystropheus walks into the clearing. Nigel tries to grab its tail, but it detaches and swims off. Then a huge ichthyosaur comes and eats the tail, before swimming around and getting a bit too close for comfort. Then we get a strange transition into... We now enter the seas of the late Devonian period, where one of Nigel's crewmates is seen underwater capturing some footage. He surfaces, and in the footage we see a huge armoured Pliocene. After that, Nigel does some fishing while the crew build the diving cage. He gets a strong bite and manages to catch a smaller Placodome, a relative of the Pliocene. He covers it in chainmail for some reason, and then dives into the cage with the bait. They wait around for a bit, and then this goofy-looking shark comes along and takes a bite at it. It then swims off as the Pliocene comes back and starts biting at the cage. It rushes at them and then freezes in a stupid-looking to be continued. The next episode starts where the last one stopped, with the big dumb fish finally getting the bait. But when it goes down to enjoy its meal, it gets snatched up by an even bigger Pliocene. It swims off, and with another dumb transition, we enter... Now we enter a time of lush and warm climates, and Nigel is seen walking in a mangrove swamp where he finds some footprints. I'm pretty sure some of the audio here is used in Five Nights at Freddy's.
These look really promising, look.
Then he gets chased by an Arsinotherium before getting on the boat and playing some whale sounds to attract a Basilosaurus, an ancient predatory whale. They wait for a while before a huge tail comes out of the water and splashes everyone on the boat. Nigel gets in the water and splashes around with the whale for a bit before it bites off the speaker and swims away. Yet another weird transition, and we enter... We now visit the Pliocene, a time when our ancestors were starting to walk on 2 feet. Nigel and his crew are looking for a shark, and a big one at that. They create a realistic enough whale model, attach a camera to it, and chuck it into the ocean. The model resurfaces with half of it missing, and the footage shows the model being attacked from underneath by a juvenile megalodon. They then look for signs of an adult and eventually spot a fin sticking out of the water. Nigel gets back in the diving cage and his crew drop a huge clump of chum into the water to attract it. The shark comes along, bites at the cage and goes for the bait, but the crew easily pulls it up before the shark catches it. Nigel is trying to attach a camera to the shark fin, and it is not an easy job. He eventually climbs onto the boat's side platform and tries to spear the fin. The shark jumps up and we get what is quite possibly the worst to be continued ever. Anyway, after that cliffhanger, Nigel climbs back up onto the platform and manages to attach the camera. Then it shows the crew a few days later, and they have found the camera bobbing in the ocean. They look at the footage and find out that the camera became dislodged when the shark attached a small whale near the surface of the water. Attached a small whale. Then another transition brings us into we're now in the Jurassic, and Nigel is looking for my personal favourite sea monster. He's seen swimming with a group of Ledosichthys, the largest fish to ever swim in our seas, alongside an ancient type of crocodile. They get back up on the boat and start monitoring a radar. Within hours, a new shape appears on the screen. It's moving towards an injured Ledosichthys, and when the crew stick a camera into the water, they see a huge Liopleurodon taking out the big fish. They need a way to repel these huge reptiles if they want to get close to them, so they come up with a suit filled with a repulsive liquid, and when it's released near some small Liopleurodon, it gives the desired effect. That night, Nigel puts on the suit and dives to the corpse. There are two adult Liopleurodon biting at the carcass, and when one gets too close, the suit's defense works and it repels the huge reptile. Then Nigel swims to the surface, and with one final transition, we enter. Nigel is on a rocky shoreline surrounded by half-bird, half-seal-looking things called Hesperornis. He gets in a dinghy and runs towards a cloud of blood. Below the surface, there is a feeding frenzy consisting of fish, Hesperornis, and Xiphactinus, the devil's pet goldfish. But there was something else down there, the unmistakable streamlined shape of a mosasaur. Once they reach their actual boat, they turn on some kind of a submersible camera and chuck it into the ocean next to them. Then a pterosaur comes flying over and nearly gets eaten by some hellspawn of a fish. The next morning, the crew are awoken by a huge bang. They get out of the water and spot the corpse of a huge archelon with a bite taken out of it. Later, they spot multiple shapes on the radar, and when they check the camera, they see a group of Elasmosaurus using the boat to propel them. Then, a living archelon swims past their camera, and Nigel wants to get in the water with it. He rides out on his dinghy and gets in the water with the huge turtle. He swims around with it before the crew spot a shape in the water near them. Nigel surfaces, nearly missing a bite from his Xiphactinus. As they ride back to the boat, something knocks him out. On the camera, everything makes sense. A huge 60-foot mosasaur has taken a bite out of the dinghy and is now going for the crew. But it's not just one mosasaur, it's a whole family of these sea monsters. Lucky for Nigel, the mosasaurus seems preoccupied with the dinghy, and with one final flipper smash, we end this documentary. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this.